Life speaks. It speaks through struggles and success, through music and messages, the preconceived and the unexpected. Whether you are in the depths of the valley or in the midst of your mountaintop experience, everyone needs to be encouraged from time to time. Here we will share stories of strength, testimonies of triumph, verses of victory, observations, and information meant to touch the heart and uplift the soul, to keep you on your path of purpose and navigate this thing called life with power and authority. This is Andrea L. Hines, and I'm your host for When Life Speaks, here on ALH Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network. I am glad you accepted the invitation to join us tonight. There's something in this broadcast just for you, and if it is going to be a blessing to your life, it will be to someone else as well. So share, tag, start a watch party, and invite someone you know to join us. Then turn down the volume of life and get ready to receive, so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to When Life Speaks. I'm your host, Andrea L. Hines, and I have a guest co-host with me this evening, and that's Miss Francina Booker. Hello, Francina. How are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, Miss Andrea Hines. How are you today?
I am well. I am well.
Good.
No need to complain. And we already have a guest on the line with us, and that's who I call our South Carolina connection. And that's Miss Angie O. Good evening to you, Angie. Glad to have you in the house this evening. And
Hello,
I am
Angie.
looking forward to seeing who else comes on and who else will join us tonight. We have started another series. We had a summer series that we did, and we talked about connecting the dots. And Francina was with me, I think, on one of those episodes as well. And we're switching over, we're going into fall, and we're switching over to talk about blessing blockers. Blessing blockers. And that's something that we are all faced with. We don't like to think about it. We don't like to talk about it all the time. We have a tendency to point the finger, I will say, or make things somebody else's fault, or take a look at it and say, oh, this happened because of this, or this happened because of the other. And a lot of times when we sit down and we do self-assessments and we look at our lives and look at how we act and react to and around different things, we realize that guess what? We put ourselves in a place of self-sabotage, and we put ourselves in a place of blocking what it is that God has in store for us. So over the next few episodes, we're going to have some guests come in, but we're going to talk about four major, what I think are major blessing blockers. And we're going to start with one of those tonight. And I put it out to the village. I think the village got scared. Village said, no, I don't think I want to touch these things. but Francina stepped up to the plate and said, I'm going to take that one. I'll take that one on. So I appreciate that, Francina. And tonight we are going to be talking about bitterness. And that's something that we don't always want to talk about, don't want to talk about the root of bitterness, don't want to think that we are bitter. But we're going to explore that topic a little bit, what it is and how to keep ourselves out of the place of becoming bitter. But I wanted to just start off very briefly. Francina, when you think of blocking, something blocking, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about something that blocks?
So can't get through.
Can't get through. Good. Good. Something keeps you from getting through. And in this case, is something that is keeping God's blessings from getting through to you. Right.
Yes.
And I think that's a good way of putting that. Something that blocks, obstructs, it prevents, it stops some things from happening. And it's God's desire to bless us. That's what he wants to do. He wants to bless us. He wants us to have only good things. He wants us to prosper. He is looking to do things that would give us the abundant life that he talks about.
Mhm.
But very often, if we are bitter, and we're going to talk about what bitter really means, what it means to us. But when we're bitter, he can't get through. He can't bless us the way that he would like to bless us. What are some of the things you think about, Francina, when somebody talks to you or says something about you're bitter? You've gotten really bitter over that particular thing. What comes to your mind?
I get defensive because I
Ah,
want to know why, what what makes you feel that I'm bitter? What am I portraying? What am I putting out there? What kind of signals are you receiving from me that warrant you saying that I'm bitter? So yeah, I do. I get defensive and I'm like, what you mean? And I get the bobbling the head and using the hands, the signs, but because it hurts me. It
okay,
hurts me when somebody say I'm bitter, you know. But
okay,
and sometimes the truth hurts because it
yeah,
could be true,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I want to know what did I do or what did I say to cause you to feel that I'm bitter?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, if you establish the fact, and one of the things that I had in the notes is that keeps us at that place of bitterness is when we're insulted,
Mhm.
the head,
Yes,
when we're insulted, when we are offended. Those are two things that can put us at a place of bitterness. Have you ever been in a spot, Francina, where it was true, where you had to admit to yourself, you know what, I am bitter about that? Because bitterness takes on a lot of forms, and one of the things that it is closely related to is anger.
yes.
Things that you are angry about can often get you to a place where you become bitter. It's associated with anger and it's associated with disappointment.
Mhm.
So, if you have you ever been at a place where you had to admit to yourself, I have become bitter about that?
Yes, and as the show was playing in the background, God brought something to my attention. I had a friend that we were really tight friends for 17 years. I mean, I told her all the secrets, everything. And a situation occurred involving my ex-husband, and it caused me to get bitter. I was so bitter. We didn't speak for 12 years.
Oh my goodness, really?
God came to me because He brought it in my spirit, and He came to me and told me I needed to call her and talk to her. And I didn't really want to, but I did, and I'm glad I did because in as we talked, she had no recollection of really why we were not speaking and why I was so bitter and angry towards her. Because a lot had passed and we never got any resolution. I never really discussed it with her. And so yeah, and so when I noticed too, when you hold on it, that other person, they keep going on with their life, but you
Right.
still harboring those feelings, and them feelings can make you sick.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's very true. And one word that you mentioned that always comes up when we talk about bitterness, and that is the past.
Mhm.
The past. A lot of the of times we end up being bitter um, because of things that happened long time ago. And when I say long time ago, you were mentioning the number of years. I mean, there are times that we stay bitter about things that happened so long ago that we really forget the reason.
Mhm.
We have had an outcome of not speaking, of avoiding, of not being compassionate, not being responsive, and all of those things over things that the other party involved has moved way beyond. They don't even remember it, and I know that I was at a point, I don't think I had tipped over into bitterness, but I was angry with somebody, and I was like, do you realize that I'm angry with you? And they went, why? What did I do? What could I possibly have done? And I thought, how could you not recognize the fact that I'm treating you differently or that I'm responding to you differently? But when people have moved on, they don't get those signals. I don't think they see those signals. But I think when it's affecting us, just like you said, it can make you sick. It can make you unhealthy. It can put you, just at a place where you are not doing well at all. And that's another reason why they say that forgiveness is for you. It's not
Right.
for the other person. It is to be able to release you from that bondage, from those feelings, from that negativity. And I think that's something that we often miss as well.
Hmm.
Often miss as well. Do
But
you?
that's another point that you brought up. Not letting go,
Hmm.
holding on, you know. Um, Another instance, I remember when me and my husband was going through some challenges, and that's when I was diagnosed, and I was just trying to do so much, trying to take care of me and trying to take care of him. And I remember God kept saying to me, take care of you, I got him.
Mm,
And you would, okay, I would back off, but then if I see him getting in a place or doing something, I want to rescue him. And God then told me that 3 times. After that, God stepped back. When you And so I was bitter. I was bitter because of the things that I was doing. But I brought it on myself because he had already told me what to do. And
mm,
so therefore I was disobedient. And then I started getting stressed out and I started worrying, about the situation. And I wouldn't have had to if I would have just listened.
yeah.
And I had told myself after I said, now, who do you think you are? How do you think that you can do better than God? You know, how, and I had to recognize that.
Hmm.
But it was after the fact, though, after I done went through the bitterness, anger, disobedience. So, we got to listen. You got to listen to your body, but you got to listen to God, because bitterness can be very detrimental to you if you don't catch it and get hold of it. It'll take you. It'll
Hmm.
take you to a dark place.
Hmm. It will take you. It will overtake you if you're not careful. It will overtake you. Um, and I was looking. I was making some notes and looking at some things, and I was thinking to myself, what is it? What is it that puts us at a place of even being bitter? And I know we mentioned anger, and anger can be as healthy on some, uh, in some ways, as it can be unhealthy.
Hmm.
But I was wondering about that and thinking about what is it? What are the nuances of anger that can put us at a bitter place? Let me see what Angie says here. We take on things sometimes and then we get bitter about something we were never supposed to be involved in. Oh, Angie, that is so good, so good, so good. Because so many times it's just not our business. It's
Right.
God's business. It's his fix. And he doesn't need our help.
Exactly.
He doesn't need our help. And I know there have been times that he has said to me very clearly, you are in my way. You are in my way. Because of that, because we take on things that he doesn't mean for us to take on. And if we would listen, like you said, Francina, he tells us, he gives us divine downloads and strategies and words and all those things to say, this one isn't yours.
Mhm.
This one isn't yours. And I've had many couples, especially, say to me, I was praying about this, and my husband wasn't doing this, and he wasn't doing that, and my wife wasn't doing this, and wasn't doing that, and God has said that's not up to you. That's not up to you to try to resolve. That's not up to you to fix. And I always remember Joyce Meyer talking about going to God about Dave, who's her
Mhm.
and saying, God, why don't you do something? Do something about it, and take care of it, handle it, get him on the right track, whatever needs to happen. And God said to her, what makes you think it's Dave? Duh. Not Dave, it's you.
Mhm.
And that's why that mirror, that self-assessment, that being able to take a look at what am I doing? How am I receiving what's going on, such that it's making me angry or
Mhm.
getting me into that place. But I find that the two strongest influences, I think, and you can agree or disagree or tell me what you think of the strongest influence, but I think two of the strongest influences in getting us to tip that anger over into bitterness are one, being insulted, because if somebody insults you, that hurts your feelings.
Mhm.
And a lot of times when they insult you, and this goes for this one and the second one, they they don't recognize it, so they don't step up to it so that there can be apologies. One is to be insulted, and the other one is to be offended. And I think those two are very closely related. But if you offend me, if you insult me, insulting me says that you're talking about me in a negative way.
Mhm.
You've insulted something. You've said something negative about my character. You've said something negative about, how you perceive me as an individual. Um, but when I'm offended, you just flat said something that just is wrong. It's just wrong, and it hurts my feelings. And those two things, I think, offense and being insulted, are two hardest to get over, because the other person doesn't readily admit that that's what they've done. And I think that's another piece of it. It's one thing if I have made you angry and I come to you, or you come to me, and I'm able to say, that wasn't my intent,
Mhm.
or I didn't mean to say it that way, or I'm sorry that you took it that way, or whatever. But when those things are not acknowledged, I think that's something that makes us hold on to them, and we don't let go of them that easily, because first of all, I won't quit talking about it,
Mhm. Right.
because I'm going to look for somebody to agree with me. I need agreement, and not in a positive way. I just need agreement. I need you to know that Sam Jones hurt my feelings, and I'm going to tell you why, because I don't want you to like Sam either. Now, I got a thing against Sam. I want you to have a thing
Mhm.
against Sam too, because I got to hold on to that. I got to have that negativity going on. What about you? What do you think of some
So
strong?
and when I just listened to what you were saying, what about sometimes people may say things to us, but we may perceive it in a negative way,
Right?
even though that it wasn't meant that way. So sometimes, in order to get a full understanding before we allow ourselves to get in that space, is maybe to say, "Can you repeat what you said?" Or you know, give me some clarity because I'm not understanding exactly what you're saying, so that they can repeat it, so I can process it and say, okay, this is what I heard. Is this what you meant? And then I can go in. I mean, so to speak. But that's what I want to know, because sometimes I can, and I have people have perceived me in a negative way, And then they get to know me and said, "You are nothing like it." I said, "No, but you never gave me the opportunity. You never came to me and said anything." Sometimes they go over what other people say, or what
Right.
other people may have had a bad experience with you. But my thing is, I'm not going to judge you by somebody else's words. I mean, I got to find things out for myself. So sometimes I got to look at me, because it also depends on where I'm at. Because I could be in a bad mood at the time that we're having a
Talking
conversation, or
about
that
what
something's being
space you
said.
might be in emotionally.
Right. And so therefore, I gotta look at the whole picture and know where I'm at, what mind wise, emotional wise,
Mm-hmm.
and then go from there.
Mm-hmm. Angie says, yes, we take on things sometimes, and then we get bitter about something we were never supposed to be involved in. Oh, okay, that it come up a second time, I think. I hear what you're saying, Francina, and I think that the key, one of the keys to what you're saying is the timing. I think too many times we let things go when we let them go, but then we don't let go of them. We let them go, but we don't let go of them. So
Correct.
in the moment, instead of me dealing with it in the moment and saying, you know what, this isn't right. This isn't working right. I'm not sure I heard you correctly. I'm not sure I did it correctly. Um, we don't deal with it then.
Right.
We let it pass, but we're keeping it, we're
Mm-hmm.
holding it, we're feeling some kind of way about it. And the next time we see that individual, it comes up because it hasn't been resolved.
So.
I had an issue recently where I had seen somebody and we kept passing by each other, not speaking. And I was aware of the fact that we were passing by each other and not speaking. That's the beginning of the recognition that something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped them and I said, this is the third time that we have passed by each other today, this morning, and have not spoken. And she just kind of looked at me. And I thought, before we get into excuse mode, and I didn't say that to her, but I'm thinking to myself, before we get into excuse mode, let me acknowledge some things. So I said to her, I understand that you're busy. I know that you got a lot going on. There's a lot happening this morning. You're trying to juggle a lot of things back and forth. And I get that. But there is really no reason for us not to acknowledge one another and at least say good morning. Oh, she said, I didn't realize I was doing that. Now I could have said to myself, yeah, you did. You know, you saw me when I was coming down the hall and you didn't even say nothing to me. We could have gone there. We could have
Right.
done that. But there was no need for that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, you are now aware. I am now aware. And we both have a responsibility to fix it.
Right.
We both have a responsibility to fix it. So I think the timing that you talk about is very, very important. And not just the timing from the standpoint of where your headspace is, but timing, period.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that I can deal with quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that now, if she was moving so fast that I had to stop her on her mission, that wouldn't have been the right time. If I had read her and saw that she was upset about something or appeared to be angry about something, it wouldn't have been the right time. But I would have been aware that it has to be dealt with. Soon as it could be, it would have to be dealt with. Or it would get into the anger thing. I could easily have gone into, I know good and well she saw me coming. She didn't try to
Mm-hmm.
speak. I didn't try to speak, and it could have just gone off. Just
Yeah,
totally.
it could have escalated into
Yes,
something that it didn't need to.
exactly. Exactly.
But you
And
know what? Another thing, with me, my tone of voice,
yeah,
And sometimes I'm not aware of it. Can be maybe a little harsh. Um, I have like a little deep voice, but I also and I've had people tell me, how I talk, and like I said, you know, well, thank you. I wasn't aware, that I was, putting that off. Of, they were perceiving me like that, and so I didn't take offense to it. But sometimes it's your approach. How do you approach people?
Right.
How do you talk to people? Body language. You may not say much out of your mouth, but your body can tell a story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that can cause somebody. Well, look at her. She thinks she all that. Because I do. I speak with my hands. I talk with my hands, and I do move my body. But I mean, it's not to be negative, or directed towards somebody, that I'm all that or whatever. But I tell you, sometimes you're not aware that you are bitter.
And I think what you were saying then about not being aware, I think that's why self-assessment is so important. And I think that's why we need to have people in our lives that allow us to, I'll say, to be who we are, to say some things sometimes that we need to say. We need to vent sometimes, and when we recognize things within ourselves that are not right, and I'll take that to say, if six people tell you the same thing, it's not the six of them, it's you. And it's something that you need to address and something you need to do about it. And it's not always good, healthy, appropriate, whatever words you want to use, to keep saying, that's just the way I am. Well, if the way that you are is offending, if the way that you are is insulting, if the way that you are is causing hurt to another individual, then you need to check the way that you are, and ask yourself, is the way that I am representative of the God that I serve? Because we don't always have the opportunity to explain ourselves.
True.
It's good if at the time somebody can say to you, oh, hold on, hold on. Now I did what I did, and I felt I could do what I did because of relationship. Now, if you don't have a relationship with the individual, your approach to things may be totally different, but you still have to grab hold of the onus of what's the part that I can fix. As Angie was saying, and you were saying, God said, no, you do you over there. Let me deal with this over here. I can't, if I don't like your tone, if I don't like the way you say things, if I, am offended every time you open your mouth, and sometimes we get into those kinds of relationships. I can't fix you, but I can fix me. I can watch my approach. I can watch my tone. I can make sure that I am communicating with you at times that may not be tense and may not be tight, and you may not be in a bad space. Sometimes we can recognize when somebody's in a bad space, and sometimes we can't. And somebody said something to me one day and said, were you okay the other day? Because I said something to you and you didn't respond to me the way that you usually do. And I was appreciative for the comment. And I knew I hadn't. She was right. I did not. And I said, I was moving. I was going in a direction, nothing wrong with good. Everything is okay. But the fact that she recognized it and the fact that she was comfortable enough to bring it to my attention allowed me to address the problem, not so much with her, but within myself. Because if you're in a certain role or you're in a certain, and let's take church, for example. If you are in a particular role at church, sometimes you have to leave you at the door. You know what I mean?
Yes.
People are dependent on you to be even, solid, to be secure, to be whatever, they're looking for that from you. And you can't afford to be off
Right.
and be in that capacity at the same time. Now, are you going to have days when you're off? Absolutely. And I think that's true whether it's church or whether it's family,
Mhm.
it's, any situation that you may be in. You're going to have those days when you just, I'm not feeling it. I
Right.
can't get there. I can't do it. But when you recognize that, you have to remove yourself from that scenario
Mhm.
or explain where you are. I used to, when Lynn, my daughter, first moved down here, she stayed with me, and I had gotten very used to not having to communicate in the evening when I got home. Things were, it was quiet, it was peaceful, nobody was talking and everything. So she wasn't working at the time. And when I came home, it was a reiteration of her day. Mommy,
Mhm.
this happened, that happened, this happened, this happened, chatter, 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 chatter. And I just, and then my grandson was there and he was just making sounds for no reason. Just kid, he was just making sounds. And I said to her, I said very quietly, I said, Lynn, she said, oh my goodness, she said, is Chris making noise? Let me. And I said, no, not Chris, not Chris. But I had to say, I need 15 minutes. No talking, no anything. I just need 15 minutes. Give me my 15 and I'm good to go. And we can rock and roll, we can talk, we can laugh, we can do anything. Now, had I not done that, my reaction when I came in the door every day would have been totally different.
Mhm. Mhm.
My reaction towards her would
Right.
have been totally different. I would have been angry with her and she would have had no idea why.
Mhm.
And that anger could easily have turned into something that just was on my nerves, couldn't get rid of, couldn't let go of, and it didn't have to be. It didn't have to be. Let me see what Angie said here. She says, would bitterness ultimately amount to just being hurt and not dealing with it? I think it would. I think it would. I think it could. I think that when you're hurt and you don't deal with that hurt, yeah. I think when you're offended and don't deal with the offense, yeah.
I look back at
Let me just say this one thing, because somewhere in there you're holding on to it and you're not letting it go. And I think that's the danger. When you don't let it go. So yeah, Angie, I think that very, very easily can turn into bitterness.
I look at childhood, or life in general, and we may have dealt with some things when we were younger. Some things may have happened in our lives, and we never healed from it or never got resolution from it. But we held on it for so long that we don't know how to
Mhm.
let go of it. So the things is now we got to understand, how can I get free from this? How can I get some peace from this? How can I deal with this not without having to go over the edge? You look at people who have committed suicide. You look at them and look, they got it going on, but they are dealing with things inside that they maybe not have not talked to anybody about, things that may have happened, and they never dealt with it, and so it took them to the extreme of, I can't handle it, I can't deal with it no more, and so their only way out was to take their lives. And so I feel now we have to learn how to deal with it, whatever works. Some people may need to go get counseling, you know, if you're not able to, resolve it. Some people got friends that they can sit down and talk and say, listen, I want you to be honest with me. How do you perceive me? How am I? How do I react, when we talk? I know for me, people used to tell me, but I was always in tell me, Francine, why you why you talk to people like that? You can be so nasty, and my response was, well, if they don't like it, tough. They ain't got it, because it was like I was building up walls, putting walls up, you know. But you get to a point where, like you said, when enough people tell you, then you need to look at yourself and say, okay, why am I acting this way? What is going on that I have not dealt with that could be causing me to feel this way? So yes, we got to do self-examination. But like I said, sometimes we bury stuff in the back, in our
Mhm,
subconscious, and we're not aware of it. And when somebody bring it to our attention, you get offended by it, because you're looking at them. Um, what's the word? People when they come, bashing you, or you just want to have something negative to say about me,
right.
or you jealous of me. There I go. You jealous of me. That's why you saying that. So we got to look at ourselves, because there's some things that I'm finally able to say that I'm healed from, that I did not realize was in my subconscious. And it finally had to come out. And I'm like, wow, now I understand what people were saying before, in the past.
Mhm,
So I can better deal with it and move on. I'm at a place now, like I said, that I have peace, and it's wonderful. It feels good. And so when I see things that trying to disrupt it, something's trying to disrupt it, I have to get in a place where I can be still and be quiet and just, okay, God, deal with it, whatever it is. If it's something that I need to deal with, something I need to let go, show me, help me, but you can't hold on to it, because it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your life. It's going to
mhm,
affect your life.
mhm, mhm. I was looking here. One other thing that I wanted to mention um, is about grudges. Have you ever been a person that would hold a grudge?
I could hold a grudge for years. Yes. And keep on moving, didn't care. Ooh. And you know how you got a grudge against somebody, and you see them, and you get that something goes up on the inside of you, or you hear their name, and
Yes,
it make you want to cringe.
right. Oh my. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes.
And so I
Mhm,
had to let that go, because it wasn't good, because I'm like, for instance, you sitting here walking around, with your lips hanging to the ground, every time you see something or hear something, your heart fluttering. Why? Why are you holding on to it? Why won't you let it go?
mhm,
There's a reason, so, and I have to look at that. Why won't I let it go? Why am I holding on to it?
mhm,
What
mhm.
do I think I'm doing to that person? Because I'm obviously I'm think I'm hurting them.
Right,
They
right.
ain't thinking about it, ain't phasing them.
Mhm, mhm. I think that there are there are a lot of ways that we can deal, I think, with bitterness, so that, or I won't say deal with bitterness, but deal with circumstances and situations so that they don't go over into the category of bitterness. And there's some things tonight that I heard that I think are very important. um, One thing, and the thing that's at the top of the list for me, is that self examination.
Mhm, mhm,
We got to know what makes us tick,
mhm. Right.
and we got to know what ticks us off. And then we need to learn how to manage
Mhm,
those things. But sometimes when you go back and you find that you're angry about something, sometimes there's similarities about the things that make you angry.
mhm.
It's not always an isolated case that made you angry. You may notice that I get angry whenever I am in this type of situation, or whenever I'm responding to a particular scenario. I don't necessarily get angry, but I have an adverse reaction to yelling.
Hmm.
Period. Period. Even when people are joking with me, if they are joking with me in a loud voice, if they are yelling, I do not respond well. I do not respond well. And again, that comes from past history. That comes from abusive marriage. That comes from those areas. So whether I am at work or church or I don't care, whatever the setting is, I have learned and understand that why did that bother me when they said that? Because it wasn't what they said. Again, it was the way that they said it. And the yelling, there is a, when I would be with my friends and we'd have card night and all of that. And you know how folks are about spades and bid whist. There are certain card games that just bring out the worst in people. And I would hear couples yelling at one another and being disrespectful of one another, and that I can't handle that. I can't handle that well at all. So the self-assessment helps you to know and understand what it is that makes you tick and what it is that ticks you off, so that you can manage those situations better. So the self-assessment, I think, is very key. Letting go, I think, is very key. Gotta
Hmm.
let go. Gotta let go of the past. Gotta quit talking about it. Gotta quit, having
Rehashing it.
yes, yes,
Rehashing
yes.
over and over.
Oh my goodness. Did you hear what happened to me the other day? Did you hear what she said to me? Do you know what they had the nerve to do to me? Mm-mm. No, let that go. Let that go and stop trying to bring people into the negative camp. They don't belong there. It's not part of what they're
Right.
supposed to be doing. It's the second thing. The third thing is justifying behavior, because we always got a reason. We always got a reason.
That's me. Well, was me because I'm better now. I'm
Used to.
better, but because I'm working on that because that's me.
Mhm.
Honestly.
Justifying the behavior. and
Hmm.
and the fourth thing that you mentioned that I think is key is we got to learn how to heal. We got to know how to heal. A lot of times, the anger that we deal with, the resentment that we deal with, the disappointment that we deal with, all of those things that can trigger us over into the point of anger and bitterness. Man, if we don't heal from those things, it is just repetitive behavior. It
Yes.
just will keep going and going and going, and you'll never get to understand the freedom that you have and the love that you are missing out on and the love that you can give to other people without that. Hey, Bernice has come in the house and she says, when you're in denial, can you give yourself an honest and truthful assessment? Hmm. Bernice, I think that's where your circle comes in,
Hmm. Yes.
because all of us need to have a circle that we can be accountable to, and somebody that we can be honest with, that will be honest with us. I think when you're sincere about wanting to change, because you can get to a point where you just sick and tired of being sick and tired. You don't want to be angry anymore. You don't want to have you don't want to keep hearing, why do you talk to me like that, or why are you saying things like that, or that was hurtful, and you because you want to deal with where that's coming from, because that's not who you want to be. That's not who you think you are.
Hmm.
So you want to correct that. You want to do something about that. But if I don't have, now I may not, if you're the one that hurt me at that moment, I'm not going to listen to you. Realistically, I don't want to hear what you have to say because I've already crossed you off somewhere in my head, because I already think you're wrong. So no, I'm not going to deal with that. Not going to do it. But if I have a good friend and I say, let me tell you what happened the other day, and I can recount that to them, and they can look at me honestly and say, hey, I think you were wrong on that one. I don't think you responded in the best way with that. I can argue with them when you got those kinds of no nonsense, I love you enough to tell you the truth kind of people in your circle. They don't care that you don't get it. They gonna keep telling you what's true. What's true. And and living in my truth and being in my truth is not a badge of honor if you got bodies laying all over everywhere because you have killed people with your tongue,
Yes.
because you have ripped them apart by your tone. That's not acceptable.
Correct.
It's just not acceptable. That's in my head. I don't know, but that's what I think. That's what I think.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you with that. I look at me, my issue, the worst thing for me was being in control. I had to be in control of every situation. And anybody that tried to take that control, it was a problem. And so I've been working on that because I recognize how it affects other people.
Yes.
Because when I feel that my control is being threatened, my mouth, and I'm one of those ones. I'm a loud talker. I talk loud, and so it's not always nice. And then you recognize after you just said something, and then you recognize and realize what you said was out of order, but you can't take it back
No.
because you already put it out there. And so then you say to yourself, you know what, Francine, because then I get to beating myself up, because I said, you was wrong as two left shoes, girl, and so I'm at the point where I can apologize.
There
At
you
one
go.
time, I wouldn't say nothing. I didn't care, but I can apologize. But I try not to even get myself in that position to have to apologize. So I'm trying to be more aware as far as thinking before I speak. Because some people say, "Well, did you hear what I said?" And I was like, yes, but let me process it, so that I don't come out,
Right.
offensive, or I don't come out, harsh or brash. So I'm doing a lot better, but I'm still a work in progress, though. I'm still a work
Aren't,
in progress.
aren't we all? Aren't we all? Well, we have run out of time for tonight. Thank you so much, Francina, for being with me. I know you're going to come back again and let me tell you guys what we've got on tap next week. Lynn is going to co-host with me, and we're going to be talking about fear next week. Fear as a blessing blocker. We're going to talk about unforgiveness, and we are going to talk about anger. Those are the four blessing blockers that we've chose to deal with in this fall series. And then we have the triple threat. We've got the detrimental D's, and that's going to be doubt, being double minded, and disobedience. We're going to talk about those three things. So, look, anybody from
Woo!
the village who is on tonight, if you want to weigh in and be a part of any of those discussions at all, be sure to send me an email to speaklifewithandrea@gmail.com. That's speaklifewithandrea@gmail.com. So remember, we've got anger coming up. We have unforgiveness coming up. We have fear coming up. So I want to hear from you. Be sure to send me an email and let me know what you think about some of these things and about these blessing blockers and how we can go about not having them block our blessings anymore. All right. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Francina, always a joy. Thank you so much for being on with me tonight. So as
Thank
we
you for having me.
and we
And can I
attack.
just say this here?
Mhm.
no matter what we go through in life, know that God never puts us in a position to fail. So
Amen.
whatever we go through, we can always go to Him, and His Word is our blueprint.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Good words to end by tonight. Good words to end by tonight. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for being here. And be sure to come back next week. We're going to have a great show, great conversation, and I'd love for you to share it with us. So return next Thursday night at 7 p.m. Turn down the volume of life and get ready to receive so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Good
Good
night.
night, everyone.